it's all about cash flow at this point.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, which is why maintenance is so key. But
That's key, isn't it? Absolutely key.
cool. Well, just make sure. So, it's what you really want to get out of today.
Yep.
So it's nothing from my end, nothing really scripted. It's obviously when you originally reached out, you wanted to try and get some. Well, you're interested in getting some content for your website. So what do you want on there? What were the video sort of key topics?
So for me, it's really important that we get across to potential clients in the future what it is that we do. The amount of work we put into the process, the complexity of the process. Getting clients to understand that it's not just a quick 2-minute sketch on the back of a fag packet that we then hand over to companies like yourselves, because you can't build from that. You need to have a full set of construction drawings, master plans, specifications. We need to show you all the 3D visuals. It's the amount of work that goes into CAD. There's a whole heap of things that a lot of people just don't understand. So we want to try and put together a video that will actually explain that.
Yeah.
So rather than go through it every time a client rings up and hi, I'd like to have a nice garden.
Yeah.
Actually, we've only got a couple of £1,000 to spend. It's trying to eliminate that process. It's all about eliminating waste and working more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your ideal client?
Ideal client.
So if you're putting, if you're releasing this sort of content onto your website and you're putting all the time and effort into explaining the process and everything that's involved, what are the perhaps I guess unrealistic budget and clients who don't appreciate the service and are just after a very two-dimensional basic sketch. So what are you trying to eliminate and what is your ideal client? Yeah,
so you're absolutely right. It's all about it's improving the funnel that comes in to me in my business.
Yeah.
So rather than me spending a lot of time actually having very long conversations and only finding out that somebody really only wants just a small patio and a bit of lawn, they can go straight to a contractor and deal with that.
Yeah.
They don't need to come through me for that. So ideal client for me, somebody who has got a bit of vision themselves, that understands that they want a really beautiful garden, a garden that is inspired by them, what it is they do and how they work, because that's one of our unique selling points. We're very, very keen to make sure that the gardens are personal to the clients. Sure. and that they've got the budget for it, Ollie. And this is part of the education process. So again, it's about making sure that they understand if you're going down this route, it's not, there's nothing cheap about it.
Yeah.
But it's understanding how much money they have got to spend and where that money's going, so they understand the value they're getting from that as well.
Yeah. And so you touched on budget there, and how important in very black and white is budget transparency from clients when commissioning a design.
100%. You've got the very first thing that once you're speaking to a client, the very first thing you need to be talking about is budget.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in me taking a client through the whole design process and I show them, use the car vernacular, I give them a Ferrari and they've only got BMW 3 Series money.
Yeah.
Some people might not understand that, but you and I understanding cars.
Sure.
It's making sure that I'm trying to sell them their dream. I'm helping to dream for them what they can achieve in their space, but I've got to try and make it realistic for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no point in showing somebody this and they really, really can't afford it.
Yeah.
So all you end up with is heartache and pain, rather than what should be a really joyous process. Yeah. And actually, enjoying the design phase, enjoying the concept planning, enjoying having that input into the process, and actually have an amazing set of drawings, and
absolutely.
Then the contractor coming in and actually building the wonderful garden for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, from a contractor's perspective as well, is what as a professional company, what would be what we really try and push for and make clear is the fact that telling us a budget and being transparent with the budget, there's that very sort of dated tradesman rippy off mentality where they think, well, if I tell you I've got 50 grand or 500 grand spend, your quote is going to be 50 grand or 500 grand. You know, that's just not the case. Even when, well, you know, certainly shouldn't be the case with the contracts that you're working with, but you know, the quotes are always going to be and should always be itemised and detailed and have a full build specification included, sort of as standard, so that you can see within your budget where the budget is allocated, and you can then you can say, well, you know, actually maybe we could, because you know, value engineering again is something that we can touch on, but it's very often a part of the quoting and tendering process. But if we've given that transparency, people can say, oh, actually, you know, maybe we don't need to spend 3/4 of it on the patio, and actually if we compromised the stone or the stone supplier, but achieved the same sort of aesthetic finish, we've freed up another 5 or 10 grand to spend on plants or a lighting scheme, or so, you know, what we want to do is, from my perspective, encourage that dialogue and conversation after the initial quote going out. You know, provided the quote's itemised and we understand the client's budget, we can recommend how to best use that based on their sort of priorities.
Exactly. And
you know, and discover. There's a lot of people we find as well. Again, I think it's very British. It's we want it now. We want, you know, and I'm certainly impatient in a lot of aspects. But you know, it's rather than looking at working with a company that works well with the designer and is invested and involved in the whole process. You know, if someone else comes in that you don't really know, you haven't heard of, you don't understand their portfolio, they're not professionally accredited, but they're 20 grand cheaper and they can start now, you know, that's big red flags.
Exactly.
And needs to be seen like that. And you know, a big part of what we're doing with the filming is showing like a real behind the scenes transparency, not just on, you know, what we don't want to do is, you know, we're not going to be making sort of videos saying this is how you lay a slab. It's more showing actually the back end and what's involved in running a company like this, so people hopefully understand how the costs are justified with using a professional company, so they understand the back end setup and infrastructure. And you know, and people are still shocked when I tell them how much we spend on insurance, and you know, and we've spent over 10 grand this year already on van repairs, and it's all those little things that we're going to be sort of very transparent about, which I think there's a bit of a gap of. So then when people see that, you know, our landscapers at the time of recording, when you break everything down to an hourly rate, are typically about £35 an hour. So when people see that number, and then they also see, you know, the bloke next door who's doing £20 an hour, they understand why why there is that difference. And the assumption isn't that me as a business owner is putting that 15 quid difference into my back pocket on every job. You know, I wish that was the case, but unfortunately it's very far removed from that. You know,
but you're investing it back into your business.
Absolutely.
And if you don't invest it back into your business, whether it's back into plant machinery, excuse me, and or training, then it's a training of your staff as well.
Absolutely.
And, being part of the APL and the accreditation that you get from there, you know, for me that I mean, when I'm collaborating with contractors, they have to be part of a trade accredited association. Because it's that quality that, you know, I'm bringing the quality that I bring to the table, and I expect that, and my clients expect that of the contractors.
Absolutely.
And it's all about collaboration and a partnership, surely. And it's us working together of an equal footing, from a point of view of me making sure that I'm at the top of my game, and you guys making sure you're at the top of your game. I mean, that's really, really,
absolutely,
really, really powerful.
And you know, if the client has commissions yourself or another designer, you know, that should be viewed as, you know, they're taking it very seriously. They appreciate this is going to be a significant investment. So being part of those accreditations, you know, nothing else, it just shows that everybody who's involved, because it's a big deal for them, so it just shows that everyone is involved are people who take themselves and their profession and their trade seriously. So, you know, I would hate as a client to feel that, you know, you spent all of this money on a design, but then it's just been chucked to this slapdash sort of professional, which, you know, unfortunately, being in an unregulated industry, there's plenty of. Whereas, you know, if they feel like they're with somebody who's really invested and really cares, and you know, for us as well, you know, I'd like to think a selling point with us being significantly designer-led in our projects, it's in our best interest to impress our designers.
Yeah.
You know, if a designer's given us an opportunity to build, we need to do a really good job, and that's not just in the final product, but that's in, you know, how we deal with the client, how we organise our sites, how our guys look when they're there.
That's hugely important, Ollie. It's you know, it's the whole package that you provide as well. It's not just about the finished garden, but it's the whole experience that the clients have when your guys are on site, when your team's there on site. It's the professionalism, it's the timeliness, it's the cleanliness on site, being polite and keeping the client informed of what you're doing and where you are on the stage of the works, so there's no surprises. And if there is a surprise, we all know you stick the bucket into the ground and you find, oh crikey, that wasn't expecting that gas main there. And you have to then move it, and then comes back to the collaboration again about designer. That retaining wall that we were going to put there, we can't put it there anymore. How's that going to impact if we put it back 3 meters or whatever it may be? So again, it's having that, it's a three-way relationship with the designer, with the client, and obviously yourselves. That's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, a lot of it at the end of the day, when you're dealing with domestic clients, is it just comes down to respect. You know, we're in their home. It's you know, we're in their home. The guys are in their garden. They, like, very often our clients work from home or are there whilst the work's going on. So, you know, we need to be respectful. We need to, you know, yes, the radio can be on, but not at a stupid level. And we need to make sure, you know, we haven't got guys there just running around shouting and swearing, and you know, especially if those clients have young families. So it's just that sort of level of conscientiousness. And at the end of the day, if we're employing sort of tradesmen and craftsmen whose values are in line with those sort of principles, they typically do better work. You know, they have pride in their work, they have pride in how they appear. You know, hopefully they have pride for the company that they work for, whether it's us or, you know, another similar landscaping company. You know, if they're wearing our logo, it's you like to think, well, you'd hope that we're only putting people on the ground that we want to be in our logo.
Absolutely. So going back to the process then, when me as a designer, I'm very early on with my relationship with the new client. When do you want to get involved in that process? Because at the end of the process, is normally too late. But when do you like to? What part would you like to be introduced to the client when the
as early as possible? And you know, I don't think that can be stressed enough. I think any delays in the design or any stages of the design process that happen without the contractor being involved is, you know, they're out of the loop. They're missing conversations where they can potentially add value. They can potentially, you know, spot things that, 'cause at the end of the day, it's the contractor that's quoting and delivering the project. So in an industry that's so fast evolving, if the designers have seen something amazing and decided we'd really love to specify that, you know, we can quite often just provide a bit of a reality check in actually the budget implications of that. So if nothing else, it means that budget that the client has shared with their sort of wish list, as that's being incorporated into your master plan, it's almost a bit of just a fact-finding, reality checking process where we can say, actually we're creeping a little bit out here, or actually we can recommend, you know, have you guys worked with this supplier before? There's this stone that we've become aware of. We'd really love to use it. It's better in quality. It's, you know, it's more sort of environmentally friendly and has less of a carbon footprint, which is obviously important in what we do. So yeah, we as professionals can add value throughout that whole process, which, you know, we like to think is obviously appreciated. And when you're running companies, you know, accredited landscaping companies, fundamentally that company was started because the director or directors has a passion for the industry. You know, so we've come from being on site and going through and growing with designers, and, you know, typically starting with just sort of little hand drawn local 2D things, which when you start that, you quite quickly realise that it's really in your best interest to push on past working from those plans. So, you know, we've been through it, and we're used to value engineering. We know what things cost. So yeah, hopefully the clients see the value in having us involved. and ultimately it's going to lead to a smoothly delivered,
Yeah.
high-end, great quality of finish project for everyone.
Is that one of your goals then, to start building some big Chelsea gardens?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, we've done 3 Chelsea builds on trade stands, and we've done about 5 Hampton Court builds. But again, we've done 1 show garden and the rest trade stands. But the show gardens haven't been as principal contractors; they've been as subcontractors.
Okay.
So we've had lots of those opportunities, and we've really got the sort of bug for it. But
why do you think what is the bug? Why is there a bug? I know from a design standpoint why there's a bug. Is it this? What's your tweet?
I think it's the buzz, and it's the there's a buzz to it. I know a lot of my sort of skilled guys work well under that pressure, and it's an opportunity to sort of to show everybody. There's no point trying to build something and a name for yourselves just behind sort of closed doors. Chelsea and show builds are an opportunity for me to show off the company and the team that I've built. Show what we're capable of. Show how we deliver projects. Show how we work well under pressure. Show how we collaborate well with designers. Show how we're sort of resourceful and can adapt and overcome issues. I think it's a great motivator for team members and for staff. I think it will be crucial in helping to recruit the right sort of staff, and that's not necessarily really experienced, highly skilled. They've been building show gardens for 20 years, but it's young members of staff as well who are getting into the industry and have been sort of clued up enough to think that if we're going to do this, and I'm picking this as a career, I want to work with a company that's giving me these great opportunities to really show what we can do. So it's a combination of all of those reasons, really. Obviously building sort of the company's brand and reputation. It'd be great to start getting some awards on the shelves, and so APL awards are the next thing that we need to start going for.
Are you up for any this year?
No. And again, it's sort of this year more than ever. It sort of came and went. And there are a couple that we felt we could have put forward, but we've just been really busy and it's not something I've sort of prioritised. And obviously now see and understand even more the impact that they can have. And again, it's just a good way of sort of showing what we can do. So, and we've built a few gardens now that I think would be great nominations. And now that they've had a year or 2 for the plants to sort of fill and develop, a couple of which we're doing some maintenance at as well, so we're actually able to keep them looking.
Well, that's key, because you've always got this conundrum that once it's just been built and you finish on site, it's looking perfect at that point in time. But all the plants are normally fairly juvenile.
Yeah.
So you always want them to have a good year, 18 months worth of growth.
Yeah.
But you've always got the risk, if you're not maintaining it, the client lets the garden go a bit and things are a bit tired and haven't been maintained to a certain level, that you want to go back in there and take those lovely photos.
Yeah, and you come back and actually it's really not a good representation of the planting plan, and nothing's developed as it should, and nothing's had sort of key, where the key and crucial intervention should be in terms of, maintenance and pruning to develop structure, etc. That those opportunities have been missed and it hasn't happened. We've seen it a lot, and it's always, it's always a little bit of a shame when you see the clients have maybe got a lawnmower pusher that they use. Who's obviously cheaper than our maintenance services, but has sort of just said, I can do your beds as well while I'm here, or I can just add a few hours onto what we're charging you for the week already. It's always a shame, because I certainly never wanted to stand there and be bluntly saying to the client, please don't do it. I promise you we're better than that. Unless they're sort of horticulturally smart as well, and know and understand what they want the plants to turn into, they might not see the value in that extra sort of £10-15 an hour that we want to charge our guys out at. So,
well, but you're maintaining that garden at the level that it really needs to be maintained at. I mean, you can let it go wild, And a lot of gardens now are designed on that basis, very naturalistic.
Yeah.
But even still, there's still a little bit of intervention in there to make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck out there. That garden.
And I think if clients have been sold a 3D visual package with the design as well, the 3D visuals, which I'm sure is how you work as well, is the 3D visuals, the plants shown on those, that's the mature planting scheme. So that's the design, that's the form and the structure and the grouping that you want. And and the colour, the seasonality that you want the planting plan to represent.
Exactly.
So obviously, when it does go in the ground, it doesn't look like that. They're much smaller.
Yeah.
There's still often quite a lot of soil space between. You can see the mulch, you can see an irrigation system, etc. So it's only once the plants have had those couple of growing seasons to fill out. So if a client has been sold the dream vision of that 3D visual, they also need to understand that it comes with a couple of years aftercare after those plants go in to get that. It's when the contractors leave site, that isn't the hard landscaping looks like that, but the softer stuff.
Yeah, it
takes time.
And in that first year, it's key to getting those trees, those big shrubs, the small perennials and grasses established. It's the right amount of water, because we like to specify irrigation systems.
Yeah.
But equally, if you're on a very clayey, soil, sometimes too much water, you end up drowning the plants. You can give them too much TLC.
Yeah.
So that first year is really important from a maintenance point of view.
Yeah.
That's why I always like whenever a garden is built, the contractor that's built it is going back in to actually maintain it, and I then maintain a relationship with the client.
Absolutely.
If there are any complex horticultural queries or questions that your guys aren't sure about, I'll go back once a month or once a quarter.
Yeah.
And actually just have a couple of hours with them, see how the garden's going, and we may need to tweak this bit here, or that needs a little bit of adjustment, and then liaise with your maintenance teams again. It's not just that design phase.
Absolutely.
It's the whole.
It's also, it needs to be another view on that is it's protecting your investment. If they've spent often 5 figures on their plants, if you've got a competent, horticulturally competent company in there caring for them, because it is caring for them. We're looking for early signs of pests, early signs of disease, early signs of things that can actually be catastrophic, that can't be warranted or guaranteed. So if we or an equivalent service is spotting those issues early on, we're able to deal with them, and and they don't have a detrimental effect or impact on the garden.
So exactly.
It is important, really important.
It's funny going back to when the garden's being built. It always makes me smile, actually. If you turn up there and you're planting in probably late autumn, what the weather's like these days, you can probably plant most of the year now. But if you're there late autumn and you've got all these perennials with nothing on the top of them, and the client's looking at, how much did we pay for all these?
Absolutely.
And as you've got these pots going in, it's just having the faith as well, isn't it?
Of course.
There's a you're checking the root structure, making sure you've got a healthy plant, there's a good crown on it. But it's going in, and it's having, it's the client's having that faith that next spring, then you'll see these plants emerge
absolutely.
from their slumber. So
absolutely, no, but planting's really exciting. Certainly for us, and by introducing our sort of maintenance and soft landscaping capability and capacity, it's great that we're able to actually be involved in looking after the gardens once they are built, because that's something I've always struggled with a little bit is and it's something you hear a lot of. It's the time and effort and energy gone through, going through the contractors to then the planting's then delegated to somebody else because you don't offer it, and then you see a picture of that garden in a couple of years' time looking really incredible, and you just feel at that stage so sort of out of touch. But hopefully that's something is going to be changing with us and our current offering. So, fantastic. So going back to Chelsea. I mean, obviously I've sort of said briefly why I think why show gardens for us as a contractor, and that chance to show off the team and the infrastructure that we've built and our capabilities under pressure. So I mean, you as a designer, potentially more obvious benefits from building something at Chelsea. But I mean, what are because I know you've got ambitions to get a Chelsea garden under into your portfolio.
Yeah,
I mean, what's the drive behind that?
Yeah, so this is a great question, because when I started the business probably about 5 years ago, I was just focused on winning paid work, building my business through designing quality gardens, putting them straight in for the national awards, whether it's the APL Awards, the Society of Garden Designer Awards, or the Pro Landscaper Awards. Yeah, getting that recognition quickly, because designing a Chelsea garden and getting it built can take up to a couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's sometimes longer getting all the planning and preparation you might not get in the first year. You have to reapply second year. So it really is a big investment, and there's a huge amount of time that you have to spend behind the scenes, especially a first big show garden. Yeah. I suspect, and from speaking to my colleagues, you don't always get funded for that.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of personal investment you have to put into it. So it was getting the company to a position whereby, right, I think we're in a position now where we can do it. Now let's do it, because we're doing it because there's a number of reasons, but we want to build the brand. It's about recognition. It's about screen time now. It's about letting people know, not only within the industry, it's the same for you as the contractor, and the general public, that this is what we can do. This is what you can have, this is what you can achieve. Now, some of the gardens are very expensive, and they're very expensive for a number of reasons, because access and practicality at Chelsea is hugely difficult.
Absolutely.
And you've also got to think about the fact that you're building the garden temporarily, because you then have to move it on to a permanent home. Yeah. So obviously a general public wouldn't have to go through that process. So you've obviously not got that cost.
Yeah, absolutely. And and very often the specialist contractors involved in delivering a project that technical and high end in those sort of time windows, a lot of it needs to be sort of prefabricated and built off site. You're not and then delivered using sort of specialist and very expensive machinery and cranes. It's very often not the case of you turn up day one of the build and you're showing the plan and you sort of will stand there and have a look and go like, right, okay, I think we should maybe let's start with this bit, or let's start it. There's a lot of work that goes in before that, and even in our experience in show gardens, you have every single day very clearly itemised and what you need to do, and when materials are coming, and when things are coming in, and when things are coming out, and when stuff's hired, and when you have subcontractors, and when specialists are in, and you're running domestic projects. You could and we often get a question that we often get that we've I've just got good at saying the answer to is I can't tell you, is when clients are like, okay, so when are you going to start, so I can tell you that, and they're like, and what's your finish date? It's like
weather dependent.
There's so many variables, and we are yet to this day, so Hardwood Landscapes are 7 years old now, and we have never built a garden that is what we were originally commissioned to build. So there have always been alterations, additions, changes, and
Ollie, sorry to interrupt, but don't you find that when the build starts, so you may have been through a cost engineering or value engineering process, some bits and pieces have been taken out, absolutely. When the clients start to see the garden coming back, you watch all of those things that have been taken out just start coming back in, and you very often end up at a figure, an end revenue figure that's bigger than what you initially submitted, and then had to value engineer down. So again, it's just the process. And when you're dealing with private clients, especially more so over commercial, it's easier. That money seems to be more easily spent because it's part of a company budget, etc. But when you're working at someone's home in their garden with their money, it's understandably people are a bit more careful about parting with it. But we and yourself just need to show them the value that we're adding, and that it is money well spent, and that the work that they're having is being done properly, and it's going to last a significant amount of time and really add value to their home, their life, their lifestyle. But that comes back to you demonstrating that you can build a garden at Chelsea under extreme pressure, and deliver something that quality, that for me that stands out, that says, right, these guys know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And I'll trust them to build my garden. They'll have more time. The budget will be different.
Yeah.
But that for me, from the outside looking in, for a contractor, I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely.
For me, talking about the, I suppose, getting the brand recognised, getting people out there seeing what it is that that we do and how we design, looking at, you've got a chance to play a little bit more. Doing a show garden, you can not get crazy, because there's no point creating something so wacky that people can't relate to it.
Or it can't actually then be implemented in real life.
Well, exactly, yeah. So you've got to strike that balance, I think.
Yeah.
And that's what we're starting to look at now as we started to formulate our designs for the show garden.
Fantastic.
So that's going to be really important. But above all else as well, I tell you what, it's good for the soul. You get that buzz, you get that bug. Because when you're stood there and you're trying to explain, you've got the people wandering past your garden and they comment on it, they want to chat about it.
Yeah.
Because we did a garden at BBC Gardeners World Night last year, and the clients, potential clients, the public, they don't, they love to understand what process you went through to actually get from that piece of inspiration to that finished garden. And when you explain it to them, it's, oh my, how on earth do you do that? It's not black magic, but there is a process, and designers are wired in a certain way to pick that piece of inspiration and think, what can I do with that, and how can I take that and turn that into a garden, and especially a show garden. When you're explaining that to the people, it just sends the hairs on the back of your neck up. It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So sharing that with the wider world, I think is great. It's going to be great for my little business. And you're talking about your team working there and enjoying it as well. It's great for people in my teams as well.
Yeah, of course.
Getting into doing something just slightly different. Yeah. It's not to say it's the same old, because we have a standard process that we go through. Each garden is obviously completely different, completely bespoke to that client and that space. But actually, getting into something completely different, it's just refreshing. Yeah. And it's good. It's good for your staff. It's good for people. It's good for your soul. So, and it's just keeping people motivated. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, have you been up to Chelsea during the build?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Okay.
Only for 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
Just on the soft landscaping side.
Yeah.
I've seen while I've been there, I've seen I suppose the physical limitations. I've seen the chaps on site, people on site. Trying to build in very, very tight conditions, and it really is unlike anything else I've ever seen.
Of course.
And I remember my very first time that I was there. We were along just the side of the main avenue, and you have the run of the lorries and the vans and the trucks delivering everything. Yeah. I remember being stood. So Dutch trolleys were there with all of the plants on there. Yeah. And being Chelsea, or any of the RHS shows, you need to make sure all the plants are in the top nick.
Of course.
And in transport, you get a stalk or a branch that's been broken, so you have to cut it off. Yeah. And I just remember being stood, by the Dutch trolley, and you're stood like this, and you stood with your little snips doing this, because you've got an Arctic that's literally
brushing past.
Literally brushing past you. You're stood there. You've got the flaps on the curtain side. Yeah. You thought, what was that? Oh, it's an Arctic. It literally is. It's crawling at a snail's pace. Yeah. There is just no space there. Yeah. And again, this year I'd like to do some planting work again this year.
Fantastic.
And actually, go up and get more involved with the construction process again, because it's easy. Yeah. Well, it's not easy, but it's very complacent of me and my team as designers to just this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. Yeah. But actually understand what you guys have to go through to actually build it, and making sure that it's designed in such a way that, like you say, a lot of it can be constructed off site. Yeah. It's almost like a Lego kit.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can bring to site as best you can, and thinking about, okay, well, we want to put this great big wall up there, or a rammed earth wall, whatever it may be. What's it going to sit on?
Yeah.
That can be easily taken apart in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah.
And then moved on to
absolutely.
So that's a complete level of design that we just genuinely don't do.
Yeah.
Other than doing a show garden.
Yeah.
So that's something that will be new to us.
Yeah.
We've done a little bit of that with our show garden last year.
Yeah.
But not a big Chelsea show garden though. So that's going to be completely new.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly very exciting. And I mean, even hearing you talk about it, you can tell there's genuine sort of passion and excitement, which I'm sure will come through. Yeah. So is that something that's actually in? Has it progressed beyond a bit of a pipe dream? Are you in planning? Have you started putting some ideas together? We've
spoken to the RHS were very helpful.
Fantastic.
So one of the things you have to do is sort the funding out.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of chicken and egg. So if you go back to normal, if I'm designing domestically, I don't go to a client, here's the design I think is going to work for your garden.
Yeah, go and find the money.
Yeah, exactly. So the designs we come up with in the domestic environment are inspired by the clients.
Sure.
So what we have to do to get the funding, we have to be able to show the potential investors in the future.
Yeah.
This is what a garden could look like for you. So we have to go through this almost like this blind design phase, thinking about the types of clients we want to target.
Sure.
And making sure that these visuals that we're coming up with, or these concepts we're coming up with, are very flexible.
Yeah.
Because if you're targeting a finance style company, and then you end up coming across a media company that wants to invest in a Chelsea garden, it's got to be so that it can be tweaked and twisted,
of course,
to meet the needs of that client. Then you have to get into the process. Right, we now need to make sure that this works for this client.
Yeah.
So that's really difficult. So it's another way. It's a different way of designing. So, but that's the key thing. It's going and finding the funding. So we had a really good conversation with the RHS. They're very helpful.
Fantastic.
So we're now starting to put together our portfolio work that we can then start to go out and speak to the potential investors into a garden.
Fantastic.
We're also thinking about Project Giving Back as well.
Okay.
That's a great organisation. They're closed for 2025.
Yeah.
So they're opening again for 2026. We've heard the funding's been extended.
Okay. Brilliant.
So potentially we'll be looking at that route as well.
For them.
So we've got two ways of doing it. But the great thing about the RHS, once we pull together this deck of our concepts and our visuals, they will go through it.
Yeah.
And they'll start looking at it and say, well, look, they have the vast experience of the show gardens.
Yeah.
So they'll advise and they'll direct and they'll guide you. So you then have a much more usable set of pictures, portfolio that potential investors will actually understand and relate to. So that's where we're at the minute. So we actually got a meeting later this week where we're actually going to start kick that process off.
Fantastic.
One of the first brainstorming sessions.
That's great.
See how we're doing.
And obviously not something you need to disclose, but are there sort of investors and companies that you've already sort of earmarked to reach out to?
Yeah. So there's my wife loves jewellery.
Okay.
And it sounds very sexy, but it's not meant to be sexist. There's a particular brand that she likes.
Sure.
And they love to do Chelsea gardens.
Brilliant. That's great.
So I'm going to be talking to them and see if there's any opportunities in the future with these guys. There's a couple of charities that I'm very close to.
Brilliant.
I also opened my garden under the National Garden Scheme.
Okay.
And there's there are a number of charities under the National Garden Scheme that mean a lot to me as well. So you never know. I'd like to talk to some of those. But we've not started that process yet.
I mean, I'm sure that'll make the whole thing even more special for you if the charity that you're building with and for and who's helped to fund sort of the vision is personally connected.
Oh, absolutely. If we can tie that together, Ollie.
Yeah, dream scenario.
That would be amazing. but we're also realistic that it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to go into a show garden,
Absolutely,
into a space. So whoever the investor is, they've got to understand what kind of value they're getting out of it.
Yeah.
And it's all about the message that we're designing for them.
Sure.
As well. So it's really quite a complex process to secure that, and also there's a little bit of risk for a potential investor going with somebody who's not built a big show garden before, or not had a big show garden built before. I mean, the one we did last year was quite small.
Absolutely.
But it's about what we do to ensure they have that amount of trust in what we can deliver as designers.
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of publicity that they get from it as well, rightly or wrongly, is going to be in line with what awards the garden's given as well. So exactly, if you give them something that ends up with a bronze, yes, a bronze at Chelsea is still an incredible achievement and would look great on the mantelpiece. However, do they see it from an investor's perspective? Do they see it like that? So,
exactly. It's the screen side.
Added pressure.
Yeah. But can't wait. It's fascinating time.
It's exciting. So what do you think? So is that what you're aiming for 2026, or
if I'm honest with you,
2025 opportunity?
You still can get into Chelsea, I believe, to 2025 at this point in time.
Okay.
But I don't think we're ready for that.
Sure.
And it may be that we actually look for doing a Hampton Court garden in 2025.
Okay.
And then do Chelsea in 2026. That may be the stepping stone. And
sure.
And everyone who's advised me say, look, do a smaller garden first, and then progress to Chelsea. And I totally understand it. Being at Chelsea during the build phase, I've seen how difficult
you can see that. Yeah, absolutely.
But time doesn't wait for people. So business is only about 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I want to grow the business. I want to get the brand recognised widely, more globally as well. The only way I'm going to do that is, getting a really good show garden under my belt.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it to win direct business from it. It's all about growing the brand for me.
Sure.
Of people seeing it and understanding it, and the opportunities that then spring from it.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are at this stage, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it and you don't put yourself out there, you'll never know.
Yeah.
You'll never know.
Yeah, exciting times ahead. And Chelsea undeniably will add an amazing amount of credibility.
Yeah.
Once that garden is executed. But yeah, I mean, on credibility, and I know you touched earlier on awards and what you saw.
Yeah.
What your priorities were as an early business. I mean, run through. Go on then, give us the list. What have you won?
Oh my word. Okay, so the first big award was the Designer of the Year for the APL.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
and that's nationally.
Yeah, it's nationally. Yeah, so these awards are like I say, completely nationally. Anybody in the UK. I don't know whether internationally you can enter or not. Not that I have one international garden that I've designed that's been built, but I don't know whether you can enter an international. I genuinely don't know.
Sure.
But yes, it's national, and to be selected as the Designer of the Year was a real, it was a real change. It was a real watershed moment for me.
Yeah, sure.
And especially when you're there, that there are several hundred people in this room. Everybody in the industry who's worth knowing is there. So to get that visibility within the industry, that changed overnight how my business worked.
Fantastic.
I had people that wanted to work with me. I had suppliers that wanted to work with me. I can then use that information as well to help grow my business as well. So that was really helpful. So that was the first big one, and I won the Planted Design there that year as well. And I've won probably another 4 APL awards since.
Yeah.
For soft landscaping, collaboration.
Yeah.
Collaboration we talked about, it's highly important, and that's what I pride myself.
It's great that that's recognised as well. I think it just shows the importance that shows the importance collaboration has. So that's great.
Exactly. So there, the Pro Landscape Awards. So anybody who's watching this for the first time and considering, as a designer, an award to enter. That's a nice one to start with.
Yeah.
Because you've got lower budgets there. They do the project awards, which is for the lower end, budget-wise, not quality, but
sure.
budget-wise. So somebody's starting and they've got some small gardens that they've had designed and been built.
Yeah. I
started with those. So won a few of those awards. Last year, I believe, was year before, the floating deck within the treetop garden that won the Supreme Award. So that was a real buzz. And then just this past weekend, sorry, I have to put it in there.
No, of course.
But I just came away from the Society of Garden Designers Awards.
Yeah.
The SGD Awards 2024, and scooped 2 awards there.
Fantastic.
First time I've won those. So from a designer standpoint, it's like the Oscars of the designer world. So it's if you're winning that award, putting show gardens to one side,
sure,
that's the pinnacle of what I can do with them, what I do.
Yeah.
So scooping the People's Choice Award as well.
Yeah.
And thank you for voting. Anyone who voted, thank you. It's just going up there and collecting that in front of all those design super heavyweights out there. That's a real feather in the cap.
Yeah, I mean, it's an additional, judging panels throughout the industry in any area can always be looked on in certain ways and opinions discussed. But when it comes from peers within the industry, you can't argue with that, can you?
No. It's absolutely amazing, and like I say, people just seeing that I'm there, what I'm doing, and people understanding what it is that I do. It's really important.
Fantastic.
So
and we've got the APL Awards coming up. Have you got anything nominated this year? Is there anything in?
Yeah, we've got a small garden in there. The Japanese inspired garden. It's probably, I'm trying to think the size of it now. It's 6 meters long, so about 24-25 square meters.
Yeah.
So it's a small little garden. Actually, designing a garden of that size is much more complex than these half-acre schemes where you can be more expansive and
literally every square centimetre is accounted for and counts. Yeah, exactly.
That's the key. So we've got that one going in, and I love that little garden because you're in such a small space.
Yeah,
you've got, and it's enclosed on all 4 sides, obviously with fencing and the house. You've got lots of different planting zones in a very small space. So the fence at the end. So the garden faces south, so the fence at the end is north facing. Yeah. Gets no light there whatsoever. But very quickly, once you get past the shade of that fence panel, or those fence panels, you're into bright sunlight again.
Sure.
So you've got this whole graduation of very, dark, shady, woodland style planting, and then pulling that into something that's, is then sun loving. So it's that graduation.
Yeah.
That can be quite difficult. So there's a lot of that going on the east and the west side of the fence, and because it's so skinny, plants are going to want to do this and this to face the light. So it's making sure you've got absolutely the right planting palette.
Sure.
But the design of it itself was probably, again, it's talking about that. We were talking earlier, Ollie, about the whole inspiration, and the client loves Japan. She just loves Japan. She loves Japan, the culture of Japan.
Yeah.
The society. So she had a very bad experience previously with the contractor, and didn't specifically say designer, but she had a problem
in the same garden or in a previous
in the same garden.
Okay, wow.
And she was left with giant bamboo in a garden that had run riot. It had gone left and right. And, so basically, if I popped my head over the top of the fence, I could see bamboo 2 or 3 gardens down. So. And there was a pine tree that she had in there that in a very small space was just taking up. It may have looked great when it went in, but the longevity of it, it really was. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So she had a bad experience, and there wasn't much biodiversity in the garden. So we focused heavily on recycling everything that was there.
Yeah.
So she had lots of pebbles, lots of stepping stones that we could reuse. So we recycled all of the lanterns that she had, all of the ornaments, as many of the pots. There was hardly any planting in the garden, so we wanted to increase planting. So it's like 60-70% of the space of the garden. and that's what we did. And we took her through the process. It's a collaborative process with her, the client, but also with the contractor.
Yep.
And the inspiration came from a Japanese style of bridge, a Yatsuhashi style of bridge. So you've seen it before when the bridge does this and then it does that. And does this slightly raised bridge walkway through water, wetlands or woodland.
Yeah.
So we used that, but we took a modern twist on it, and we exploded that.
Yeah.
And created these offset or verticals, effectively. If you're looking at it, in 2D, jumping up the garden, and then cutting through all of that, we then had the reclaimed stepping stones. So we had granite and various other things that dotted around that were paths to little areas within the garden so you can go and sit and just relaxing. So it was all about delivering a change of lifestyle for her, because when we first met the client, she just didn't go in the garden. She was completely alienated from it. Now she's in it, and we just love her because she'll tell us that I was out there at 1 o'clock just playing with the lighting, just to get the lighting, because we put some lovely cloud prune trees in there for her, and she can constantly just tweak the lighting just to get different aspect. You change it every day. That tree at night will look different. Yesterday the light was going this way, now it's going that way. It's throwing these amazing shadows or silhouettes, I should say, onto the walls. So it's completely changed her way of approaching the garden. Not changed her life, is probably a bit too strong, but certainly changed her approach to contractors, because Justin from JGH did that garden, and he's got a great team, so he won her over and showed her what an APL or a Bali accredited professional contractor is all about, and she completely changed her point of view on that. So that was really, really powerful. And she just goes out there now and she sits in the garden, because when we first spoke to her, he said, well, where are you going to sit in the garden? Well, I don't sit in the garden. Well, but we want you to sit in the garden. Absolutely. It's the whole idea of having that space and being out there with the birds, the bees and the butterflies and all of that. And she does that now. And seeing that, that a bit like the ready bread clover, you get that lovely glow of thinking that someone's really enjoying the space, and you've changed the way they use that space. So we're all positive. So that's the one that's going in. So it's a small little garden. So we don't have any high hopes of winning, big awards, but it's just nice being there. It's a great day.
Yeah, of course.
Just spending time with the likes of you guys and all the other trade suppliers within the industry. It's just a great networking event, and again, you're just being seen there. Just from the point of view of the networking, these awards. If you look at the price per table that you have to pay, you think, okay, well that's not cheap. But the value it gives to you.
Absolutely.
I strike up these relationships at these events, and without these relationships I can't do what I do. I didn't realise it before I started, but very early on I joined the APL. Now for me it was just I've got access to people like yourselves, and it as a designer it's so you can't explain how valuable it is. Of course. Because you're learning all the time off your experiences, because you're on site all the time. And if you're having problems or issues with a certain product, or you've seen something on site or about how something's constructed, and you're sharing that. We see that through the WhatsApp groups, through the Zoom meetings, the cluster group meetings. And just seeing that, it's powerful. So that's why I love these awards. So APL Awards, great. March the 15th. I think. So I'll be going.
Fantastic.
I'm looking forward to it.
Ticket. I need to get one. I spoke to Andy from Your Garden Needs, and he said that he's got some space for me. So.
Oh, there you go then.
But I need to get every year. It's the sort of thing that it is the thing that comes and goes, and I always regret going. But now obviously taking sort of myself and the business publicly quite seriously. Since Kareen's shown my face.
So have you got a couple of gardens that you've got lined up?
So for next year's, is it next year's, or those have been and gone nominations for next year?
So for this year, that's gone. The nominations will, I think we have up to normally the back end of May.
Sure. Okay. Yes. So yes, we have got a couple that we're going to put in. You know, just to you know, not again with no expectations. We obviously don't know what we're up against, but we'll put them in because they've been delivered by the team that we have now, by how we operate now. They're a good representation of us as we stand and our capabilities and how we execute the jobs that we're commissioned for. It's a good excuse to get some of the guys up as well, and get them involved. And sort of, you know, hopefully it's one. Undeniably, it will be a great motivator for them, actually showing that, look, you know, you're part of something that's taking this all seriously, and you know, you guys have been obviously crucial in getting these designs implemented and built. So yes, definitely, we're definitely going to go for it, and especially, like I said, there's one or two which we've managed to keep hold of maintenance wise, which is great. So we know that they're still looking fantastic. Perfect. So, I mean, you mentioned, so on the Japanese garden, the client had obviously gone through this process already. So probably even more crucial when they've gone through a process, it hasn't worked out. You know, they've spent their hard-earned money already, and they haven't ended up with anything that they're going to use. Where do people find you? How does that client come across you? Where are you found, especially if someone is really needing that reassurance to know that who they've instructed is going to be different to the experience that they've gone through? You know, you as your business, so 5 years in, how do clients actually find you?
So to start with, it's, and still is, the majority of my leads come through Google.
Okay.
So clients are looking for garden designer near me, garden designer, looking at the keywords.
Sure.
So we focus very heavily on what we do through our website marketing, the SEO work we do.
Fantastic.
So we make sure that we're always on the first page, and if not at the top. So that was very important, and I knew that from day one. I had to do that. So that's what we focused on. We still do, because I would say that, you know, only 5 years in, it's probably 70-30, 70 Google, 70% Google, 30% through recommendations now. Yeah. Now, I might go off a bit of a tangent, pull me back if I do, but
no, of course.
From a point of view of me building my business, it can take up to 2 years from the first meeting with the client to actually get a garden built. There's a whole heap of things that can happen. Planning permissions, issues, clients may have a change in circumstances, so we have to scale something back or add something in. I've had that happen both ways, and then by adding something in, that can then raise other planning issues. And that can be several months.
Absolutely.
The actual design process is quite long. Very detailed. We discussed, and then once you've got it to a point whereby the tender pack is ready for the contractor to give an official estimate against.
Sure.
Even though the client has been introduced to the contractor many months, if not years ago, it's still that final piece of paper that you have to then take the clients through and explain.
Of course.
This is where the estimate's at for the build. You've got a lead time as well. And if you don't have a lead time, it's normally because your work isn't as good as it should be.
Absolutely.
High quality contractors like yourselves always have lead times. So by the time you add that lead time on, you've got my lead time at the beginning. Then you've got the build time. It can be 2 years. So coming back to your original question, the recommendations at this stage, because I'm only 5 years in, some of the gardens have only just been built. So getting the recommendations off the back of those gardens is only just started to come through now. So it's still very focused on Google. Started a lot more at what we're doing today and just chatting and looking at more video content to help educate and understand, help clients or potential clients understand what it is that we do and how we work together, and the values that they're going to be looking at. And trying to direct through social media and what we do, trying to direct everybody to the website to capture them. Sounds like a bad term, but capture that inquiry there. And then start the communication with them from there.
Fantastic.
So that's for me in my business, that's the important thing at the minute. Hopefully, as we go on down the line, after Chelsea Gardens and a lot more recommendations, the business becomes more self-sustaining.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's more 30-70 then.
Yeah.
Recommendations versus inquiries that come through, the internet effectively.
Yeah, and I think what's, we're yet to actually formally work together on a build, but I think what's great so far, and something that I think there's a number of designers that may fall short of, but how rigorous you are in your initial sort of fact finding with the client and the parameters that you have hit to even say yes to working with somebody.
Yeah.
From us as a contractor point of view, that's so valuable, because we know that when we do get the opportunity to collaborate, we know that the project that's been put in front of us has realistic budget allocation, realistic client expectations.
Yeah.
It's just streamlining that whole process, which
absolutely,
which is so valuable for us. And we're incredibly busy back end, and I guess similar to what you're doing, all of the effort and a lot of this, the media stuff that we're doing, is a big driver behind that, is making sure that it's a filter. Clients are watching this and going, oh yeah, we want to work with them. We see that they really value, they take themselves very seriously, and they're running a business well. They're doing everything above board. They look after their staff. They deliver, ultimately deliver amazing projects.
Yeah.
Communication's great. We can see exactly how the company structure is. We don't just see the guys on site, but we know what's going on in the office.
Yeah. That's important, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, and that should, you like to think, makes it very clear that if somebody's getting in a few quotes, and yes, tender process is something that we're always going to have to deal with. Hopefully less and less as we go on, but just to make sure that when we are being put against other companies, we're being put against other companies that are offering a like-for-like service, hold the same values, and that those tender processes are aimed at trying to find who the clients feel they will work best with, and not simply who's going to be the cheapest quote.
Yeah.
Because we will never be the cheapest quote. What we offer is, well, I say never. I mean, we may be in certain circumstances, but typically in the tender process we're currently in, we're not. But there's no doubt in my mind that what we offer isn't good value for money in terms of how the project is delivered, and then actually how long it lasts as well.
Yeah.
So, that the filtering, which again it's in line with so trying to grow on social media, trying to grow on our Google SEO, trying to bring people in. We then need to make sure that isn't just leading to hundreds of new inquiries for projects that we don't want. Yeah. So we'd much rather get much fewer inquiries and really up our conversion rate. So.
Yeah, well, that's important, isn't it? It's it's about eliminating waste in what you do in your process.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no point in wasting the time of a potential client, because they just don't have the budget to build what it is they wanted to get.
Sure.
Or actually just making sure that you've got 5 really good quality leads versus 50.
Yeah, absolutely. So, which just take a huge amount. We spend a lot of time, obviously a lot of time quoting, and if we're just not winning them, we need to have a good look at ourselves as a business and go, this is wasting time.
Yeah.
I'm paying some of the more senior guys to spend time on quoting, and our office manager who's doing all of that for us as well, and helping. And just in client communications, if I'm employing and paying all of these people, but we're not winning anything, there's only so long that can last for.
I'll say, how much do you actually think it actually costs you to pull together a full quote? Because bearing in mind, I provide, and my company provides you with a very complex set of documentation to ensure there's a garden built to a very high standard.
Sure.
But to make sure that you go through and make sure that you've picked up every nuance, or
absolutely.
How much does that cost you? How much time does it take?
I mean, so it depends on the complexity of the project, but I would say anything that we want to look at is never going to be less than, I guess, sort of full person day allocation in the office, because it's not just going through everything and then, we've spent a lot of time. Well, Matt, to his credit, spent a lot of time building sort of spreadsheets. So everything all of the materials we're asked to sort of use as a finished surface now, we know exactly what's associated with them actually underground.
Yeah.
So we're inputting all of that. We're then tweaking intake. So we can't and we'll never use a generic meter squared rate for a project because they all vary so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's inputting all of that. So then getting all of our material and labour allocations out and how long it's actually going to take, and it's then actually typing that up into and populating something which isn't from a template. All of our quotes are submitted. They're written out from scratch. It's hand typed. It's specifications vary for everyone, so it's very, very rare that we're able to produce a quote in less than a full day. So I would say ballpark, it's probably going to be about a £300 to £500 spend on actually getting a quote that we've taken seriously out the door.
So that's a good average. But if you have a £250,000 garden come through, it's quite complex.
Yeah, triple, quadruple that.
Yeah.
And especially for those projects as well, we're often reaching out to specialists within the industry and things like fabricators, maybe a structural engineer, specifications needed. And so again, to get formal quotes from those sort of professionals, we very often, those services need to be paid for. So we can't get a structural engineer's specification unless we've paid the structural engineer. So we can't start going, yes, we can look at our time allocation as part of our business model, but we certainly can't start using those sorts of services on us for a project that we may never even win. So
Exactly.
On projects like that, that's when it becomes so vital to work with a preferred contractor that the designer knows can implement that project. It's sort of geographically, it suits them, skill sets, it suits them. They've got the right sort of team and back end team to be able to facilitate it and manage it smoothly. They've got a strong enough portfolio that if the client wanted to go and see some projects that they'd already built, we actually have something to show them. If we're going through that process with them, then absolutely it needs to be on a preferred contractor basis. If it's not, it can just lead to a trail of frustration. And we've certainly worked with a few designers where we've been sort of misled in expectations of the project, and initially we're coming in as a preferred contractor, but then actually the quote we put in was too much, but rather than then opening a dialogue with us, they look for other cheaper quotes, and then suddenly we see the job being built on Instagram 3 months later, and we're like, come on, what's going on? The reason that we've said yes to producing a quote is because we like the project and we want it as part of our portfolio. We want to build it. Yeah. So work with us.
Oh, exactly. Well, and that's why it's important for me as well, and what I do, because if I'm annoying contractors by just saying, look, quote against that, and I know that all you're doing is price checking.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is, you're not going to quote again. Yeah. The relationship breaks down between, you and me, or whoever the contractor may be. So I'm always working with a preferred contractor.
Sure.
In that area, because my work's spread far and wide now.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm always looking at other preferred contractors outside of the core, contractors I have.
Yeah, absolutely.
TS Landscapes, Justin at JJH.
Yeah.
And they cover a certain area because, unless it's a huge project, then it's always good to have a contractor who is normally within about an hour, maybe an hour and a half.
Absolutely.
Of their home base.
Absolutely.
So it can be managed, more appropriately.
Of course.
So I'm always looking for a preferred contractor. I'm picking a contractor who I think is going to be best suited to that client.
Absolutely.
To build this type of garden.
Yeah.
Because some contractors have different skills.
Yeah, of course.
Some are great with metal. Lots are great, obviously, with laying porcelain, stone, whatever hard surface material is. But also the soft landscaping side of things as well, and how they bring that skill and expertise into the job.
Absolutely.
So you're always looking for that. So it's key for me that it's a preferred contractor. Because I started my business, I was telling clients, well, I'll get 3 quotes for you.
Sure.
And very quickly I understood that I was wasting the time of 2 of those contractors.
Of course.
And, if it's £2,500 worth of your money and time, it's not fair.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and you know, your fees effectively would have to go up in the future to cover that lost time.
Of course.
So me not doing that helps the clients in the long run, because that your fees won't be as high as they have to be if you're spending days and days and days, £1,000 worth of work.
Absolutely, and you know, rightly or wrongly, we're much when we do spend that amount of time on a tender process, and then you know the feedback is along the lines of we'd like to work with you, but this quote is cheaper. You know, what can you do? Can you revisit it? Can you go over it again? And you know, that's a very frustrating. Whilst value engineering is very commonplace and something that we're very used to dealing with, that's certainly not a problem. But when it's worded in a way that, you know, sort of the job's yours, but you've got to see what you can do, and you've got to try and match this, and you know, very often we will end up, if the client's attitude and their expectations are aligned with, okay, let's just play with these quotes now and see who we can get the cheapest, it's just never going to work. You know, it's never ever going to work. And yeah, absolutely. You know, I haven't spent 7 years reinvesting everything that I've made and working, you know, so hard to build what we've built now, to give my time away for free at the end of the day. So clients also need, you know, especially if they're a professional, you would like to think that actually if they stood back and go, oh yeah, no, why should you do that for free?
Exactly.
You know, so long as what the service that we're providing and the advice that I'm giving and the quotes that I'm putting in are adding value to the process, which is what I need to make sure I'm doing, then it should be paid for. So,
but talking about value in the process, one of the things that I came across fairly recently was with one of the gardens that was completed. The clients that were in the process of putting an extension on the side of their house, and they had the original estate agent come back and come and look at the house, because they wanted to get an idea, if we spend this much value on our extension,
of course,
is that going to give us, you know, a payback?
Yeah.
Now you don't go into getting your garden design ordinarily to add financial value to your house.
Absolutely.
You know, but there is the offshoot of that. So when the estate agent actually came out and saw the new garden for the first time, it blew our socks off, because the estate agent could remember what the garden was like previously.
Good.
And immediately the estate agent said that the garden will be worth approximately £100,000 more on top of the house value. So it increased the value of the house by 100. It's a very difficult garden. It's one of the gardens that won the awards recently, and it added about £100,000 to the garden. That garden didn't cost £100,000 to build.
That's amazing.
So it added a lot of value. But they also said, if you had built that extension with the garden in the current state that it was, then you wouldn't have got a return on that build. Yeah. But now that you've got the garden that befits the bigger, grander house,
absolutely, now
the two work together.
This as a plot is worth.
And the client was absolutely thrilled. Didn't go into it for that, absolutely. But this was just a spin-off. Yeah,
it's great to have that as a case study. And I mean, we are actually, when we've when we're consistently going for the six-figure projects now, it's a question that we often get is, what value is this going to add to the house? Am I going to get the return? That's often how people justify the spending, which I completely understand. And it's important to make clear that there isn't a formula to follow. No. It's certainly not, if you spend this, it's going to add this percentage, or you need to spend a certain percentage of the property's existing value to then add. You can't follow there are a few of those equations floating around online. You can't follow them, but if you create something that makes the garden completely usable, practical space, if you were to inherit it, the maintenance associated with keeping that garden looking like that, if that isn't out of line of what the clients are spending on the house, if you're implementing something like that, then yes, of course it's going to add value. It's just tricky to say exactly how much. It obviously also depends on who's buying the house. If they really value their outdoor space, it can potentially add a lot more.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, it's an interesting topic. Right, Adam, talk me through what's your full design process. So from the point of a client reaching out to you, or potential client reaching out to you, what is the sort of initial fact finding you do and go through, any sort of screening that you do to check that they are a good fit, and then obviously if it is a good fit and you are commissioned, what does that actually look like?
Oh wow, okay. You sitting comfortably. It's going to take a little bit of time.